Hello and welcome to the Westcity Church podcast. If you'd like to get to know us more, find us at westcitychurch.com.au. We really hope that you're encouraged by today's message.
Hi everyone. Happy New Year, happy Christmas. I haven't been in church for a few weeks. I was actually op shopping down in Augusta this time last week and ran into the Palmers. So, small world. We've made it through, haven't we? We've made it through the most wonderful time of year. Maybe wars and fires and all kinds of heartache aside. And I'm guessing your Christmas looked just like the Maya ads. Yeah. There's never any right-wing uncle in the Maya ads. At my Christmas, we had a drunk cousin, so that was good. We had some toddler tantrums. I'm not exactly sure if my husband and I were speaking on the way home because I'd wanted to leave about 6 hours earlier. And, you know, it's this time of year that really puts a spotlight on family dysfunction, doesn't it? You know, no matter how loving your family is, there's going to be heartbreak and there's going to be all kinds of issues with that. And then holidays. Then you get to go and live with your in-laws for a week. And, you know, family holidays, we see these photos on Instagram and we say, oh, the beautiful beaches and the smiling children. And we don't see the fights. We don't see the sand. We don't see the stress of travelling with your type A husband and your 3 teenagers that are taller than you and a dog in one car, and nobody likes the same music. So I just want you to kind of think about your own dysfunction when you're at Christmas dinner or when you're on a holiday. I do hope that you've had some fun, but I was watching, my kids actually have been getting up at about 12 o'clock and then binge watching TV between their busy schedule of gaming and gaming. So I happened to be in the room. They're watching Lucifer. They're up to their 5th season. Has anyone seen Lucifer? The main character is the devil, who's the fallen son of God. And I happened to come in, there was an episode and God had come to earth. And God's really lovely actually in this series. He's all smiling eyes and a cardigan. He wears cardigans. He wears Birkenstocks. And in this episode, God's put on his flowery apron and he's cooking a nice family dinner. And he's invited everybody to dinner. And it's a really fancy dinner, actually. God sent one of his angel children to Florence for truffles. And he's cooked his famous chicken with just the right amount of rosemary. Lucifer has bought a perfect chocolate souffle, and there's lots of wine and lots of candles, and everything's very perfect. Expectations are high, but of course it doesn't take long before everybody reverts to the teenage version of themselves. There's pettiness, anger, regret, guilt, shame, and God's kids are kind of coming to fisticuffs a bit. They're hurting themselves and they're hurting each other. And then I thought, wow, this is actually quite biblically accurate, I think. Because if you have read any part of the Bible, you will find dysfunctional, imperfect, hurting, petty, resentful people who are hurting themselves and are hurting others. And the idea that to come to Jesus' table, you have to be an evolved human, let alone what we really are. We're not really humans. We're really spiritual beings. The idea that we have to be perfect to come to the table is actually directly in opposition to the message of Jesus, who says, come as you are, I can use you however you are. So I'm just here to say that your dysfunction does not have to be healed or resolved. You don't even have to be working at it to be welcome at the table. You can bring anything that you're carrying. We can bring all our human experiences, and we can bring everything that's going on in the world, because you are you, and you're a spiritual being, and you are loved and welcomed by God. And there's something that is bigger than all the conflict in the world that you're welcome into. Thanks.
From England originally. When I moved here 15 years ago, I first lived in Joondalup, which might also be lovingly known as Little Britain. And in England, you can go, really, from where I'm from, you could actually go 5 minutes down the road and the accent is completely different. 10 minutes is different again. So imagine my surprise when I've travelled halfway around the world and I'm in IGA and I hear this accent from someone who would have literally lived down the road from me in England. That happened everywhere I went in Joondalup, really. But a lot of the British people that I met out here were like staunchly diehard, like, we will not say chips. They are like crisps till I die, and they're not thongs, they're flip-flops, and that's just the way it is. And I always found that strange because I thought, well, we're in Australia, they're called thongs, so I don't have any personal issue to start calling them thongs. So in that sense, I was quite happy to, put my British ways aside and embrace this new place that I live. However, there is one thing about me that is so British that I really cannot and will not change, which I guess makes me die-hard British, and it is the way I like my tea. I like a certain type of tea, a certain strength. I brew it for a certain amount of time. I like a certain amount of milk in it. I like a certain type of cup because that does impact the tea. And I like to drink it at a certain window of temperature, and if you miss that, it's really just not enjoyable anymore. And yes, I see that nod. Somebody understands me. Thank you. So I like to think there's a right way to make tea, at least for me. But I'm actually someone who thinks there's kind of a right way to do everything, and I know what that is, and really you should do the dishwasher this way, and you should do that this way, and you should live this way, and that's fine, but that's really not okay. And there's some things you should never do, and there's some things you can sometimes do, and there's some things you should always do, and that's kind of how I walk around living life, and I am a bit of a rule follower. So sometimes when I read the Bible, I really get stuck on the word sin, because sin sounds really, really bad, and I want to be really, really good all the time, so I don't like that word. In John 8, and I think if someone can pop that slide up so you can read along with me. In John 8, it says, to the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you're really my disciples. Then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. They answered him, we're Abraham's descendants. We've never been slaves of anyone. How can you say we should be set free? And Jesus replied, very truly I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. So if the son sets you free, you'll be free indeed. So what does a slave to sin look like? I'm trying to go through creative imagery, what would a slave to sin be? And I don't know what a slave to sin looks like, but I'm really sure of one thing. There's no way it could look anything like me, surely. And for context, these are some words that regularly get used to describe me. Goody two-shoes, I've had that one since I was really little. Little Miss Proper, I got that one a few years ago. narc, and you know what? I will actually take that because I am a bit of a narc. So needless to say, the idea of being sinful sends a shiver down my spine. And I know there's some work I need to do around that, for sure. But for anyone else who struggles with that word, or maybe doesn't relate to it, or doesn't want to look at it, or can't imagine anything other than some kind of like pirate marauding the seas, overtaking people's ships, that's kind of what I'm getting for a slave to sin. There's another passage that I think could be really helpful for us to figure out what we might need to be set free from. If you go to that slide on Matthew 7, verse 3-5, it says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take that speck out of your eye,' when all the time there's a plank in your eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." This is peppermint tea, by the way. That's a whole different thing. That's not the same as English tea. So what is the plank in our own eye that we find hard to see or never look at or maybe don't want to look at? Like, what is our stuff that we need to work on? When my oldest son was 3, I finally waved my white flag and just said, I cannot parent this child. I have read everything, watched everything, done everything, talked to everyone. He is too difficult, and he spoils all my plans, and he ruins all my nice moments, and he just cannot be contained. And I'm making it like a joke, but it really wasn't funny. It was very difficult. So I got some professional input, and somebody came to my house and just observed us doing our normal morning. And I said, "See? Like, he's doing it now. Do you see that? Like, he won't even ask for help. He doesn't want to join in. He wants to do everything his own way." And she said, "Oh, why do you think he's doing that?" Because he's so difficult, because he's naughty, because he's such a pain, or he's just trying to... And she explained that behaviour is really a way to get our needs met. And she said, "What do you think's going on for him?" And I swear I must have asked that question in 3 years, but when she said that, I just saw the whole thing completely differently. I'm like, oh, he's actually feeling embarrassed, or, oh, he's really overstimulated, he's had enough, this is too much, or he's really frustrated. I've just started working in a therapeutic community, which is like residential rehab for people trying to get clean and sober. And one of the staff members has been sober for 19 years. And in one of the groups, he said to the residents, if it was just that you needed to stop drinking and that means you're healed, hey, we've all done it. We're here, you haven't been drinking, you can go home, right? And he's like, it's actually the behaviour and the reasons why you drink or what you're running from that mean you need to continue working on your recovery. I think that we sin. I will stop doing that by the end, but just, when we do things that aren't Christ-like, I think it's because we're hurt, lonely, exhausted, insecure, angry, jealous, afraid. We're not bad people. We're made in the image of God. I actually believe we're inherently good people. Jesus came to set us free from these things that we do, these beliefs that we have. Maybe, nobody cares about me, or I'm a victim, or I'm actually better than other people, or I need to be in control. It's the truth that will set us free, but the truth can be really hard to hear. I wonder what the plank is in your eye that you, and me, of course, that you're ignoring as you call out the sawdust specks in others. With my son, I found it very easy to see all the specks of sawdust in his 3-year-old eye, but I was actually unable to see the plank in my own eye, which was self-righteousness, perfectionism, ego, pride about my parenting, and I should be able to do this. That was probably one of the biggest learnings of my whole life, to be honest. And for that, I'm very grateful to my son. Jesus said, if we hold to his teachings, we're his disciples. And when we know the truth will set us free. So in the rehab where I'm working, they say community is method. And that means that part of the treatment is living together, and you're living communally, you're growing, you're doing your work. It's actually extremely, extremely admirable. And I think the people there are very resilient because they're taking stock of themselves all day and they're trying to grow. But as part of that, there's a whole bunch of rules and processes and systems. And one of them is called flags and bouquets. So a flag being something that you need challenging on or supported with, and a bouquet being like praise or a pat on the back, something that you're doing really well. So everybody carries around a little notebook and you write down, come over, I'd like to support you with a flag for being late to the group. So you got to get your book out and write it down. On my second day, they said, the residents can give you a flag and a bouquet as well. And I kid you not, the first thought in my head was, what would I need to do to never, ever, 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 ever get given a flag? Let me strategize. Because that would be a representation of how I'm bad or wrong or sinful. And I did say before, I really need to work on this, and I am. But if I can't open myself to feedback, how can I grow? How can I grow if I'm not getting that feedback? I guess that's why that system works. But Jesus wants to set us free from this stuff, not to condemn us. You're bad, you're sinful, you're wrong. He did it to save us. And in John 12, if you could pop that up, it says, if anyone hears my words but does not keep them, I don't judge that person. I didn't come to judge the world, but to save the world. I can get so stuck on the idea that I'm bad that I avoid looking at my sin or the plank in my eye, and I don't grow. Sometimes I wonder if we think it's actually too good to be true, that Jesus could really mean that, what he said. I didn't actually come to judge you, I came to save you. That he could wholly love us and think we're inherently good. I think we think that's too good to be true sometimes. But that's actually the scandal of grace. Jesus said, if the Son sets you free, you're free indeed, like full stop, or actually exclamation mark. That's it. You're free indeed. We need to step into his teachings and the truth will set us free. There's a line in a song that I love that I was really, when you're having a hard time and you've got one Christian song and you just smash it every day in the car on the way to work. And there's a line that says, it's saying to God, I wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I can do to let you down. I just thought, so much of that is, I can then drown in my, I'm bad, or I've done this wrong. Jesus is saying, I'm not judging you if you don't follow my teachings, but I can set you free. I think life is very hard and challenging. That was a bitter pill to swallow as an adult. I had such a good childhood. I was like, man, life is just fantastic. And then obviously you get older and you get responsibility, and actually life's really hard and bad things happen. So what about, how does he set us free then? What about that? How do we be free from worry and anxiety when there is legitimately so much to worry about? And that phrase, sick with worry? I've actually been sick with worry. In the past, I had these crippling stomach pains. I went to the emergency department multiple times, could never figure out what was wrong. And it took me a few years to figure out it was stress, anxiety, and worry. I was literally in agony because I was so worried all the time and I was so anxious. I wonder if anyone can relate to that. But so much about Jesus is upside down and counterintuitive. Love your enemies, forgive the sinner, the first will be last. Somehow in this upside down kingdom, it's one that we can be set free from our fear and our sins, and we can have a peace that surpasses all understanding. How can that be true when bad things happen? That's this upside down kingdom. Even when it's hard and bad things happen, we must hold to his teachings, like he said, and live in these ways even when it's hard. So how could we do that when it truly is so difficult sometimes? If you can throw up the Ephesians 1, Paul wrote in his letter to the Ephesians, "I also pray that you will understand the incredible greatness of God's power for us who believe him. This is the same mighty power that raised Christ from the dead and seated him in the place of honor at God's right hand in the heavenly realms." And in Romans, if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit who lives in you. The same power that conquered the grave lives in us. Jesus conquered death, and we get to access that same mighty power. And that can help us no longer be slaves to sin, fear. It can help us look at the plank in our own eye when we seriously don't want to go there. It can help us challenge our false beliefs that we might have had since, as long as we can remember, since we were a child. In the letter to the Corinthians, Paul said, "Where, O death, is your sting? Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, because he gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ." When I was a teenager at church, we went on youth camp. Is youth camp not the best time and the best place ever? I don't know if that's a unique to me experience, but it's awesome. You're with all your friends, you stay up late, we were away on a 5-day camp. I would have gotten an average of 3 hours sleep at night. I would just stay up with my friends, and then you go to the worship thing and we start a little mosh pit, and it was just I was having the time of my life, and everybody's so happy and friendly, and we're all talking about how we're going to save the world. Well, it's right up my alley. Anyway, so at my church we had youth group on Friday night, and we had what we lovingly called community kids, which was the kids who are just walking around the streets at night and nobody's really asking where they are, and they're just doing whatever it is that they're doing. But this group of people figured out or found our youth group, and they used to come by on Friday nights. Now, I don't know, who knows what a chav is? Chav, C-H-A-V. Oh, I don't even know if they still use that word in England anymore, but there is no Australian equivalent to a chav, let me say, but it's somewhere between a bogan and an esche is a chav. They wear tracksuits and hang around. I mean, that sounds a bit like an esche, but there's no mullets for chavs anyway. But we had this group of community kids, and one of the girls, Carly, was really interested in the youth group, and she was getting a lot out of it. So we said, we'll pay for you to come on youth camp with us. None of her friends that she came to the group with came, it was just her. And she had this really transformative experience, became a Christian, really wanted to learn and grow, and she got a journal and all this. And then, like I said, youth camp's awesome. It's so great. And I miss youth camp. And you got a crush on someone at the beginning, and maybe by the end you go home and you got a new boyfriend. That was always a good little side thing happening at youth camp. But Carly really had this big transformation, and then we got back to reality, and it really hits after you've had this great time with all your friends. And we all sort of went, what's she going to do now? She's got all these friends. And Carly put the trackies down, and she bought a pair of jeans, and she came to church in her jeans. And it was just this, now that I look back on it, I feel like there were strings attached. She couldn't actually still be a chav and be a Christian, which is ludicrous, because you can be whoever you want and be a Christian, and Christian is about Jesus. And there were strings attached to that, because I guess we were kind of saying, ooh, like, we don't really do that, That's not really what a Christian would do. And maybe we didn't say it, but we sort of looked over like this judgmentally. Greg Boyle, one of my favourite authors, said that there's something about the counterintuitive nature of how coming closer to love and grace is transformational. We don't actually need to tell people what to do or how to change or what's wrong in their life, because the closer we are to God and love the vine, we, the branches, will move away from the things that are harmful to us and to others, and will grow and cultivate good fruit in our life. And to me, that's what Jesus is meaning when he says, if you hold to my teachings, you're really my disciples. Then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Richard Rohr tells a story about a priest who was a missionary to the Maasai people, and he's obviously Catholic, so he was teaching about the 7 sacraments. And he described the sacrament as a physical encounter or event in which you experience God or grace or the holy. And the older guys are sat in the group like, And an elder put his hand up and said, surely there's more than 7 of those moments. Surely there's 7,000 moments where you encounter or experience God or grace or the holy. We can come close to God in nature, at church, reading the Bible, taking communion. We can sit with God. We can go on a mountaintop. We can go to the beach. We can sit in our closet. If we open ourselves to God and we want to learn about the truth and who he is and what he teaches, the truth can set us free. It's the Spirit living in us that can help us to see where we need to change and grow, and then give us the strength to do that really hard work. I want to pray for you as I finish. I've got no idea how long I talk, but I'm done. So I pray that you would identify the sins or false beliefs or behaviour that's not Christ-like in your life this week, and I'm absolutely including myself in that you would see the plank in your own eye and access the power that conquered death to be set free from those things. I pray that you would access the freedom and victory that we have in Jesus. Amen. I'm going to read the communion invitation. If you're serving communion, come on up. Which maybe we didn't. If anyone wants to serve communion, come on down. They got it? Naomi's got it? Okay. And I just wanted to add as well, when Naomi was sharing before, she said, there's no caveat that you need to be working on this stuff to come down and take communion. And I thought, well, my message is kind of about all the things that we want to work on. But you know what's fantastic? Jesus wants to set us free and wants to love us and not judge us and help us to grow. But if we're not in that headspace, or that's too hard, or we're trying but it's not going very well, the best part is, as I said, there's no judgment, and this is a meal that we can share in, that God invites us to. Absolutely, no matter where you're at and what's going on for you, he wants to meet with you here. So 100% Naomi is right. Doesn't matter how dysfunctional you are and what you're working on, you're welcome here. And if you want to grow and you want to have that reflection, you can meet God here as well, and you can talk to him about that. So this is a table not of the church but of the Lord, and it's made ready for those who love God and for those who want to love God more. So come, you who have much faith and you who have little, you who've been here often and you who come for the first time, you who have tried to follow and you who have failed. Come, because it is the Lord who invites you, and it's God's will that those who want Christ should meet him here. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us. Each week at Westcity, we say a benediction together. We do this because we believe that the purpose of the church is to be a caring community for the world, and that as we go and serve others, we enter into Christ's work of welcome, restoration and healing, both for us and others. We believe that in doing so, we get to see and encounter Christ. So let's say the benediction together. we come together as the church to be reminded of the go of Christ. So we will go out and feed the hungry, go out and clothe the naked, go out and fight for justice, go out and end oppression, go out and proclaim anew the old story, go out and associate with those who don't look like us, think like us, act like us, and don't even like us. And we'll do it all in the name of the one who sent us. His name is Jesus.